Welcome to the Life's Fair podcast. Remember, life isn't always fair, but it should be. Hello, I'm Andrew McKee, and welcome to the first episode of the Life's Fair podcast. Now, in this first episode, I think I should go ahead and let you all know what this podcast is about. Because, well, if you wanted to read everything in the description about it, well, you wouldn't be listening to a podcast. So here we go. The Life's Fair podcast is a project I kind of came up with a little over a decade ago. And with a friend of mine, Lee Angela, I put it together into a something that we could share and could bring what fair is into the online world all year round. Now, it's a podcast, and in there we're going to be hosting events and doing interviews and learning more about the people that make up different fairs and festivals around the world. But we're also going to host events outside of the podcast throughout the year. So look forward to that. And of course, we're just starting, so we could do a lot of different things. We're exploring so many different options, and in the current climate and everything, there are a lot of options out there. So yes, let's start this first episode off, and I can't wait to spend some time with you throughout the year. Well, let's start off with our merchant meet, which is one of my favorites. We talked to one of the merchants from the fairs and festivals. Now, you do get to talk to them sometimes when you're going out shopping and seeing what they have, but you don't always get to hear their story, and some of them are incredibly fascinating people. So, yeah, let's meet one of them. So, I'm here with Kat of Inner Beast of Leather.
Hello.
That's cute. Hello. And you work with leather.
Yes, I do.
And you have a long history of working with leather. So my first question, of course, is how you got into that, because that doesn't sound like something you normally hear about on a career day in high school.
No, but funny you should mention high school.
Oh, really? Did I guess something right?
Yeah, point of interest. I have been making things in one way or another basically my whole life. My mom is a maker. Her family have all been making things. My dad is a woodworker. So the impulse to create has been part of my life my whole life. And about halfway through high school, both my parents started leaning on me to, what do you want to do with your life? And I had just fallen into theater by way of an English credit class, which was delightful. But it turns out I really hated acting, so I had gotten into the technical end of it. And Zulu's about to start yelling at me, by the way. Sorry about that. Nope, she's proving me wrong. Zulu is my dog. She's very large and very loud and really wants you to know all the things. So anyway, I'm sorry, I ramble. And so I had been doing a lot of thinking about that, and wasn't really sure what I wanted to do as far as, paying bills for a living was concerned. And I was sort of toying with the idea of going into technical theater professionally, and I didn't really know how to go about that, and I didn't necessarily want to go to college because all of the people I've been talking to are like, oh yeah, you just moved to New York City and you throw in with the union and you're fine and everything is great and it's amazing, and I'm like, that sounds like a marvelous adventure. So I was kind of fighting with my parents around that point. They really wanted me to get a degree. Just, jump through the hoop. It proves you can jump through hoops. Just do the thing. We don't care what you study. Just go. We'll help you pay for it. You have to go. So around that backdrop of conversation, I went to my first Renaissance fair as an adult, and I had been going sort of off and on. I started going as a babe in arms, and Maryland was my very first show. My mom took me as an infant.
Okay.
And so I went to my first fair by myself as a more coherent, sapient adult sort of creature. In as much as a high school student as an adult, which is not really. Anyway, and I ran into a gentleman there named Matt Sowers, who owned a business called Potted Fox Studios, and I just absolutely fell in love with the product. He was making leather clothing, bodices and jerkins, and he was making pouches, and at the time he was still doing armor and belts, and just all of this wonderful magical stuff that made people happy. Like I put on my first bodice at that show, and I felt good about myself, and that was the first time I had really felt like I was in my own skin and felt good about how I looked. And I and I looked at the people around me who were having a similar experience with, the other people working the booth at that time. And, I was years old and knew I had zero money of my own. I had just been getting into an argument with my parents about not being able to afford college. So why bother? Why don't I just move to New York? And, so I asked Matt, hey, can I work this off? Is that a thing? And, he didn't think that was a thing until I mentioned it. And he went, yes. Oh, that's a great idea. Yeah, absolutely. So I served a 7-year apprenticeship with him, just through the end of high school and until I graduated college. Learning how to run a business and how to make the product. And, I went from occasional sales girl all the way up through apprentice to journeyman to when I graduated, he gave me the business and vanished off the face of the earth. He wasn't in love with it anymore. So told me if I kept it running for 10 years at least, he'd give it to me and away we'd go. And so that's how I got into this. I got into being Inner Beast. My partner, Christopher Hogan, came at this in a different way. And if you want to talk to him in a little bit, they said he's rattling around a place getting some stuff pinned down. But the basic gist was he was looking for a hobby that didn't drive him directly up a wall like chainmail, because he tried that and he said, oh, God, this is awful. Leather. I like leather stuff. We can do that. And he had been to a fair and went, I feel like I can do better. I'm not seeing anything I really am excited about. And it turns out he could. So he's self-taught. And like I said, I served a very long apprenticeship. Learning, and we learned all kinds of different things in different ways. He's got a business degree. I have a business degree from a different venue, I suppose you could say. Anyway, when we first started looking around at leaving the New England circuit, which was sort of not necessarily keeping our bills paid. It's a beautiful community, but is a little bit on the small side due to New England is a little on the small side.
Yes, true.
We started going, well, I want to do this show and you want to do this show. Why don't we put up one tent and put our product lines together and call it something else? And then then it's staffed. Then we both get in. Then, we don't have to hire other people. It'll just be, your stuff and my stuff, and we will handle the stuff and it'll be great. And it's basically sort of followed that pattern. And now we're Inner Beast, so here we are with Chris's art and my art all under one roof. And ta-da! That's the very long answer.
That's great. So Thanks. you got into leather and Ren Fair at the same time.
Yeah, basically. It's a wonderful venue for making dreams tangible, which is realistically more what we do than anything else. Is we give people permission to play and to touch the things that they dream about and to take that magic home with them, which is really an incredible gift. So, retail therapy on a totally different scale than, Saks.
So now a lot of people out there listening probably think that working with leather is more of a skill, and just you learn how to do it and you can do it. But I know that, and for some people that's probably true, but you seem to have elevated that from just being a skill you learn and how to work with it to art, where you create things that are unique and beautiful and different than you see anywhere else. And can you talk about that at all?
Thank you. I'm very flattered that that's what you see when you look in here. I think part of what drives that is our passion, not just to create, but to create things that make people happy. And I think that is part of what brings it out of just production. And a lot of the way we work is a production shop. It's not a costume shop in the way that you would get like in a theater setting where, each piece is its own unique piece of thing and it's artwork on that level. What we're looking to create is like I said a minute ago, tangible dreams that are for everybody, just that little bit of a fantasy world that you can take home with you. And I think that's part of what allows us to transcend from just stock, from just production. Mm-hmm. We really care about. I'm sorry, I'm trying to marshal my my words here. It's so much better when I'm typing because I can hit delete. Anyway, we're trying to, like I said, we're trying to rise above rote work, like just doing the same thing over and over again. And I care about every single bodice I make. If something isn't the way I intended it to be. I take it apart until it is. When Chris messes up the die, he goes, well, that's not going on the shelf. So we really care very much about every little tiny detail. And one of the things that I think sets us apart is our attention to the finish work. I care that my hems are exactly the same. It's one of the reasons why you can take a bodice I made 10 years ago and a bodice I made yesterday, and they're going to fit the same. If it's the same size, it's going to fit the same person who is that size the same way, which is something that is not necessarily true of all handmade things.
Yes.
So that attention to detail and the reproducibility and our devotion to the fact that it's not just a pouch. To me, it's not just a belt to Chris. It's a piece of magic that someone's going to take home and love and care about. And so it's really important to us to care about it as much as we hope our patrons do.
Well, that level of quality definitely comes through. I mean, when you look in the shop, it does.
Well, I'm glad it's working.
So where do you get your inspiration for the designs?
A lot of it, honestly, we play a lot of games. I'm not going to lie. We play a lot of video games.
Really?
Video games, board games. We read a lot of fantasy novels. We're both super into history. So when people ask, is this historically accurate? We run into the SCA a bunch, whether or not we're at an SCA event. One of the things we're asked is this historically accurate? And I have some trouble on that point. That historically accurate means that you could find a piece that is just like this 500 years ago. It's historically probable is what people are looking for. So what I like to tell them instead is this something that could have existed? Yes, because I have an art history minor, so I can look back and say, well, yeah, I saw this painting from Italy circa 1493, and these shapes are common, and everyone needed pockets, so these pouches would have been a thing. And I myself am an artist in my own right. I'm a designer, so I don't know what Enrique down the street makes. I haven't been to his shop, but this is what I like to put my stuff in. So if you need a pocket, here you go. And so a lot of our designs are based on things that could have been and would have been useful. Chris is also a LARPer, so a lot of the armor, for instance, is stuff that he needed at his games. I need an armor, and it needs to move, and it needs to protect this bit, because that's how armor works. And I don't want holes here, even if they're hypothetical holes, so I'll put pretty layers of things on top of things until that looks great, there we go. But yeah, a lot of our inspiration comes from, like I said, video games and history, and so we'll take a movie and we'll look at it and go, ooh, that's really cool. What if we did this with it? Oh my God, that's actually just a costume piece and is very not functional. Let's make that functional. So since we have our flagship bracer design, the dagger bracers. A lot of people see them and go, ooh, Assassin's Creed. I hear that 20 or 30 times a day. I'm like, you're not necessarily wrong. I do play a lot of video games. So does Chris. I'm terrible at it, so you will never see me do that in public. It's bad. But Chris goes, yes, but spring-loaded blades are hideously illegal most of the places we go. So instead, these are not concealed. So this is kind of our interpretation of a dagger stored on a wrist. So you get that kind of draw. So, yes, Assassin's Creed. And also, this is a lot more practical than something that's probably going to cut your palm open if you use it. So don't do that, because video games don't have collateral damage. So
True.
There's that. So yeah. Ta-da.
Nice.
Thanks.
Okay. Well, okay. Now you have all of these products, and now with a lot of downtime because of fairs and all of that, the way things are going, how can people find you now? I mean, to purchase stuff.
One of the things we're doing for the first time ever as Inner Beast is we've launched an Etsy store. We're Inner Beast Leather. It's all one word. It's a little hard to search right now. We're working on it. We have been dragged kicking and screaming into the 21st and a half century. We're a little disoriented. Time travel is very hard for us, and we're a little confused, so bear with us. But we do have an Etsy store. We do also have a Facebook page. Again, we're Inner Beast Leather, and so if you find our Facebook page and can't find our Etsy store, just send us a message. I will send you a link. I'm so sorry. I'm trying to make it easy, but I'm not necessarily good at this anymore.
We'll have links underneath the podcast from people. Yeah.
Oh, that'll be wonderful. The other thing we're doing is I put together a Patreon. One of my very good friends, Terry Smith, I don't know if you guys know her. She's an apothecary and an absolutely delightful woman. She suggested we put together Patreon. I'm like, I make stuff. How do you performance platform making stuff? That's what. So we chatted about that for a little while, and what I eventually decided was I do a lot of writing personally, and I really enjoy photography, and I have done for a long time. And that's a throwback to my father. He taught me a lot when he was in photography professionally for a little while, and so it's something I share with him, and it's something that I wanted to. I've been sort of toying with. Gosh, it would be nice if I could also share my visual arts with people, but I never have time for that, and I've got all the leather to do, and shows take up so much of our time, so it's always been kind of a back burner project. So I'm actually taking this time to sort of explore those arts as well. So we're doing some writing and some photography on the subject of our nomadic lifestyle and making art and leatherwork specifically. So if you want to see kind of how the backstage of Inner Beast works, how do we live? How do we live in a tiny space like this all the time? How do we make our product? We're looking to put together some tutorials and also just basic insight into our lifestyle, because that's apparently fascinating. People are very interested in how we live. I get a lot of questions about that when I'm at the demo table at Faire, like, "Oh, you live like this all the time?" Like, yeah, I can almost see my caravan from here. It's just like right there. And that's something else I wanted to share with people in a more coherent way than just a haphazard conversation at Faire. So again, like I said, we're doing photography, we're doing some videos, we're both do tutorials, and what do the beasties do in their spare time? I knit, Chris throws axes, we play video games. So there's going to be a little bit of everything on that. Writing about how to live in a tiny space, and what we like to cook, and our travel adventures and that sort of stuff. So again, we've put together a Patreon page. So it's art about leather instead of art made of leather. If you guys are interested in that as well.
Well, you just anticipated my next question. It was going to be, well, can you talk a little bit about if somebody wanted to learn how to start working with leather, where should they go to do that? And you just are creating a Patreon page talking about that. So, okay.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, and like I said, that's not the only thing that's going to be up there,
sure.
But I do, we get a lot of people who come in through the booth, and they've got a bit of a chip about it. The product is not inexpensive,
Oh, yeah.
and people don't think about what goes into it. So I've always met that with, you get that patron who says, "Oh, I can make this," and I've always said, "Yes, absolutely, you can learn how to do this. It can be done. I will show you how. If you think you can do it better than I'm doing, then I should up my game. Go ahead, bring it on." And that's my usual flip answer, but realistically, I really mean it. I want people to learn how to do things with their hands. If they are inspired by what we do and want to learn how, I want to help. I have a bunch of friends who just sort of started dabbling in leather, and now they do this unbelievable artwork. And It's stuff that I can't really do because of the way we work. And it's one of the things I'm hoping to take from this space we've been given, this time we've been given to sort of step back from our usual 80-hour work weeks to go, all right, let's do some art.
Nice.
So
it's a good opportunity.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think about it as an opportunity, and Chris is also really enjoying that space as well. So, but yeah, so one of the things we want to share is, if you are interested in getting started with this, here are some great places to start. Like here are the tools that I use to do my job. And this pays for our house, and it pays for the people who help us out now and then. And it pays for Zuli's food and her vet bills, and it keeps our trucks on the road. And like, this is no joke. This is what we use. So I want to be able to show people that. And I want to encourage them to do the things that bring them joy. And if we can help them get there, awesome. Like, even if, like Chris in the chainmail, even if leather turns out not to be your medium, at least trying, taking a stab at it is a really good first step. Pick up anything, and try it. It doesn't hurt to give it a spin. So I want to give people sorry, English is hard. I want to give people a good solid footing, a really good start, and foundation. That's the word.
Yes.
I want to give them as good a foundation as it's possible to have. So there you go.
Well, great. Okay. Well, I look forward to checking out the Patreon, and thanks for talking with us today.
Yeah, anytime. Absolutely. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Excellent. Okay. Well, take care.
Thanks. You too.
Well, now we have our patron of note. Now, a patron of note is someone that just caught our eye and went above and beyond what you'd normally expect a patron to be. Pretty much one of those patrons, and you all know who I'm talking about, who you just look at them and you're like, do they work here? Because they could work here. That kind of thing. Our patron of note. Well, I'm here with Kristin A. Hogan, not to be confused with other Kristin Hogans out there. This is Kristin A. Hogan, correct?
Yes, A. Hogan.
Yeah, you told me that you sometimes got mistaken for Hulk Hogan's daughter, right?
Yeah, so she was getting all my Google hits because it was his niece, and
niece. Yeah.
her first name spelled the same way as mine, but she changed her last name to ride his coattails, and then she was getting all my Googles. I was like, you give me my Googles back. So I put the name in there, and I don't know what happened, but it's mostly me on Google. So I don't know. She kind of fell off the charts or whatever. But
I understand there's a musician named Andy McKee who I'm not fond of, so I totally understand what you mean.
How dare you?
I know, right? Well, you are my patron guest for this week's episode, but you also are an artist as well, just like the rest of us.
Yes, I am. I'm a visual artist.
So yeah, so graduated Savannah College of Art and Design, and you do your own comic book and all of this other stuff, right?
Yeah, so I self-publish a comic book. I'm putting out my second issue pretty soon. I just have to finish the cover for it. And I also do paintings. I do wildlife paintings because I do love little animals. So I like to paint them the most. I will do pet portraits as well. That's one of the commissions I usually have open.
Nice. Okay, so you do all of the, I mean, you do other things too. I mean, you have a lot of hobbies and interests, correct?
Oh yeah, I'm always busy with something all the time.
I know everybody listening to that cannot relate at all, because no, that's generally how all of us at Faire tend to be, I think.
Oh yeah, it's just the point where you're like, no, I can't look at that new thing that just came out. Like, hey, do you want to paint pour? Or hey, do you want to like do some glass blowing? I'm like, no, I gotta stop.
So when did you first start going to Faire? I mean, what drew you to Faire for the first time?
I believe it was 20 years ago, because they just celebrated their 20th anniversary. It was Louisiana Ren Fair.
Oh wow, okay.
And some friends of mine are like, hey, let's go to this Ren Fair thing. And I was like, what is this thing? Okay, I'll go. Yeah, I wasn't very excited about it because I didn't know what a Ren Fair really and truly was. So I went, and I was like, well, this is cool. Oh, this is pretty cool. But what hooked me was the falconry show. That was definitely the, like, I want this to be my life now, was the falcons.
With your animal art, that doesn't surprise me too much.
Oh, yeah. And so it's pretty cool because I only went there when in that weird stage between college and moving out to Austin. And I got to go again this past fall, or I got to see you. And it's cool to see how different it was and how much it had grown. And it's become a really fantastic fair. So now I'm like, oh, I got to go again this fall. Because it's just a trip home for me, because that's where I'm from, Baton Rouge.
Do you have family there still?
Oh, yeah, both my parents.
Okay, so yeah, you can just go and stay with your parents, and then boom, you get to go to Faire.
Yeah, so yeah, definitely that's in the plans for next year, for sure, or this year, 2020.
Okay, so the falconry show drew you in, and you got hooked. But I mean, was there anything else that you really liked about the fair, or was it just mainly the animals?
It was mainly the animals, but if you ever see my Instagram feed, anytime I'm at Faire, I'm always posting a picture of me and a giant pretzel. Like my favorite fair food at Faire. I'm like, give me a giant pretzel. But also the costumes, of course, because I've been a cosplayer since before that was a word.
Yes.
So any excuse I can have to get myself in a costume and then parade about in it, I will take that opportunity to do so.
Okay. So what are some of the coolest costumes you've come up with and worn at Faire?
Well, the most popular one is, of course, Belle from Beauty and the Beast.
Yes, I remember that one.
And that's actually one of my favorite stories, because some friends of mine were doing Rapunzel and Flynn last year, And I was like, well, I want a Disney too. And I pulled out this costume my grandmother made for me when the original movie came out in 1991.
Wow.
And I was like, there's no way this fits me. This costume is very old. And it still fits me. Imagine 41-year-old Kristin is fitting into 13-year-old Kristin's dresses and is just feeling great about it. So actually grew my hair back out again this year. And so I could play her a little bit better. I finished her cloak. But she's the one that, I actually did want to be a Disney princess at the parks growing up. So to get to kind of do that at Faire really is fun. One of my other favorite ones is Meryl from a video game called Dragon Age 2. She's one of my elves that I absolutely love. And I like doing her because people who love that character just react like so happily towards me. They're like, oh, Meryl, I love her so much. So I get to meet other fans.
But even if you're not familiar, it still looks great as just a good fantasy character for Faire.
Yeah, that's what I love about a costume. It's so mine is a lycra bodysuit that is printed in chainmail, and then a green tabard and fuzzy shoulders. And if you don't know who the character is, it still looks cool. Like I get compliments all the time. I can tell they don't know who she is. Otherwise, it's just always fun to just kind of throw some garb together. On cold days, I have a pirate costume. And then I have my standard garb for when I'm like, all I feel like doing today is putting on a skirt and a vest and going.
Well, that actually brings up an interesting question, because I remember 20, 25, 30 years ago, dressing up for most of the patrons who came out at Faire was not really done. I mean, you'd have a few people that would, if they really went crazy, a few people might wear a kilt. You might just dress up in something basic with a cloak, and that was about it. You didn't see a ton of dressing up, and then it started to change where it got more popular and more open, and then it just sort of converted into not just Renaissance type wear. It also went to fantasy, and also like I said, cosplay with video games and everything else. So it's been kind of interesting because the old joke from 25 years ago was, of course, the people in Star Trek uniforms going to Faire and pretending they've just landed on a primitive world.
Oh yeah, I tell him fine with that. I'm like, that's hilarious. I always try and keep my cosplays within the basic fantasy realm. Okay. Like you're me in like a Halo costume or anything like that. Yeah. I'm like, no, it's all got it's got to all fall within the general umbrella. But yeah, I see people who kind of like get annoyed with that. Oh no, I'm like, if you want to keep the younger people who are all super into cosplay coming to these fairs and getting some new blood and some new money in there, like maybe don't be such a gatekeeper. Like welcome them in.
And I mean, what's the alternative? They don't dress up and they wear shorts and a t-shirt, and you're saying, well, okay, now you're okay and you're in character. I mean, come on.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
I for the most part agree with you. Yeah, there are exceptions. I think some people occasionally I'll see something I'm kind of like, okay, that's just not a good idea in general. But but generally, yeah, I like the stormtrooper in a kilt. That always makes me laugh.
Oh yeah. If it's funny, like I'm like, I appreciate funny. I'm like,
yeah, totally. Do you have any costume plans for the future?
Oh, so many. Tell me
your favorite. I'm gonna ask. Tell me your favorite.
Well, it's not for me. It's actually for my boyfriend. I have promised him so many things, and then I don't have time. He just needs a tabard, just a regular. Okay. His last name is McKee as well.
Brilliant.
So, yeah. So I actually want to get his official tabard done. I did some research, and it looks like I'm going to use there's 3 wolves' heads on a field of green. Okay. So that's what I'm going to use. And then I want to do his companion to Meryl is the character Hawk, who's the lead character in that video game. Okay. But it's really complex, and we bought the fabric, and then I kind of got intimidated by it. So I want to go circle back to that again. For me, I would love to do, if you're familiar with any of the Legend of Zelda video games.
Sure.
My cat is actually named after Midna.
Okay.
So I want to do Midna in her final form, so the taller, and it's going to be one of those full body suit, full body paint, a whole bunch of stuff. So it's one of those, like, I love to do this, but it's kind of intimidating. But yeah, and then just I want an original fairy character, one that isn't a cosplay, one that doesn't have copyrights, because I certainly would love to join cast one day, but you can't really be in a copyright character if you're going to do that.
This is true.
So I'm like, I need to workshop an original Fae character. So that's on the goals as well.
Excellent. Okay, so you're our patron who is looking towards joining cast. That doesn't always happen, so that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would just be super, super fun. And the only thing that's kept me from it has just been that I've been working weekends for a very long time. And, you have to give up your weekends for rehearsals. So
it's a serious commitment of time. It is.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you're like, you're doing it for, tips or just for funsies. So you're not getting paid to do it. So I need to just work towards doing more of a Monday through Friday type job so I can spend my weekends doing that. Because over at Sherwood, I'm friends with almost all the cast now. So I'm like, I just want to hang out with you guys. So I want to join the cast. But, the flip side to that would be like, oh, you mean I can't just start drinking as soon as I go?
Yeah, there are a few rules about that, yes.
Yes, don't do that. I think I could muddle through and be okay.
So we just put up a video. I mean, we put up one on Facebook. You posted it first on YouTube of sort of a homage to your experience at the Sherwood Forest Fair. I mean, how did all that get started?
Well, it got started because I was, at home, self-isolating, and just was bummed out and feeling very anxious and depressed. And
I'm sure we can all relate to that.
Yeah, and I was trying to actually do my actual artwork, and I was just staring at it and not getting anything done. And so the inklings of, like, this ridiculous video started in my head, and I was like, I'm gonna do it. Like, what else? I can sit here and be mad at myself for not doing my own art, or I can do this stupid idea and entertain myself. And ended up going into 3 days of filming and editing, me making ridiculous beards out of newspaper.
Those are funny.
And then I was painting all the other beards. I was painting on my face with acrylic paint, which I had to wash off every time I changed characters. So my face is like still hurting from that. But the more I did it, the more I was like, this is hilarious to me. And it ended up just kind of having me have some closure to the closure of the fair. And also, I stopped being anxious and depressed. And I was just like, ha ha ha, I'm hilarious.
Okay, for those of you listening who aren't really as the creative type, this is how creative types actually provide self-therapy. That's what we do. We jump into a project and then we feel better afterwards. Am I right?
Yes, exactly. Like, and a lot of times I feel like when I'm like procrastinating a project, if I just sit down and do it, it gets done. It's like that thinking about it too much. Like, just jump in, just quit thinking, just put pen on paper, just press the record button on your iPhone, whatever, just do it.
Exactly how you should do it. So, I mean, did you write out a script for all of this and everything, or did you just kind of wing it?
Both. So
okay.
Some of the Robin Hood plot line, I tried to write a script out as close to the memory of what I had from the original performers. Although I only saw the show like one time, and I promise you there was a lot of cider involved. So I was like, why were they doing this? So some of it got scripted. A lot of the performers, though, so like Paulo Garbanzo, I was like, I don't know. What do I have that looks like clubs? Oh, this lint roller. Okay, we'll go with that. So I thought the funniest parts, I thought of myself, were the improv stuff, like the French King. I'm just making stuff up. My throat hurt after doing his voice, and I was like, oh, it's a symptom. But yeah, both. I did find Queen Berengari was the hardest because I have so much respect for her as a performer. I was like, I don't want this part to be terrible. Everyone else I can kind of make fun of. But
I noticed you were trying to do the voice really hard for her.
I had to go look up some videos of her. I'm like, what accent does she have? Like, I don't even know. Whereas I found Robin Hood to be very easy to do. Like, I'm like, oh yes, Robin Hood talks like this. I'm like, oh, that's okay. Robin Hood I got.
Wow. Did you do all of this alone, or did you get people to help you with this at all?
Totally, completely alone. So me and my iPhone and a tripod. Some of the video, like especially I have a scene where Little John's passing a bottle to Robin and then Marion
that's great.
I had to get close enough so that my arms were out of the shot so I could like arrange the whole thing. So there was like a 3-point bottle shuffle in that. But
now,
yeah, I mean, I really am self-isolating, so it was me and me alone.
No, wait, I do remember some good scenes with you and a chicken, so there was some collaboration going on.
There was, yes, the chicken and the goats. When I tried to do the pub sing, I actually went into the goat pen because it kind of looks like the pub. But the tripod scared them all away because they were supposed to be in their goat house so they could be the crowd. But then they all sat down when I was just doing my goodbye message. I was like, why weren't you on cue? You were supposed to be here early when I was singing.
The bane of all films and TV shows, working with animals like that, yeah.
Never work with animals, puppets, or children.
Yes. The old saying. Well, I guess, this was hilarious, by the way, just as an FYI, just really great. Not just good therapy, but good fun. Any chance you might do any more of these in the future?
If I have a good idea or something to parody off of, certainly. This goes back to kind of the kind of stuff I used to do in high school, where we had our VHS camera, we'd run into the woods and just film stuff, no script, just off the top of our heads. And I miss doing it because it was always just a good time. I actually went to film school, and film school made it less fun because then it was all like charts and scripting, and it took away the improv fun aspect of it. So
storyboards and lighting and all that.
Yeah, and you have to film everything at the same time of day. I'm like, I filmed that whole thing like scattershot across everything. Who cares about the lighting? Who cares about the sound? There was actually someone playing very loud Tejano music when I was doing King Richard dying. And I was like, that was the one good shot I have. I don't think it showed up in the final, but I was like, I'm rolling with it. We can pretend like it's Scottish bagpipes.
I don't remember it, but now I'm going to have to turn up the volume just to check now.
Yeah, I don't think it came through, but it was super loud, and I live on 23 acres, so I was like, why is your music that loud if I can hear it over here?
Well, excellent. Well, great job.
Thank you. Yeah, I was pleased how well it was received, because I certainly was like, this is funny to me. Everything else, everyone's going to think it's stupid, and then everyone is loving it. So I'm like, oh, thanks, guys. Oh, I love you too.
Well, okay, if you could give one really good tip to somebody just starting out at the Renaissance Fair, just getting into it, and say, okay, this is a good tip that I wish I'd known when I first started, what would that be?
If they offer camping, you should go camping. It makes it so much more fun because then you don't have to worry about driving home safely. You get to do things like, for example, at Sherwood, you've got Solar Rain doing their Saturday night show, which you can't see unless you're camping. Because for years I would just go for the day and then, go home after the pub thing and call it a day. But there's so much more going on in the campgrounds.
Not all fairs are like that, though.
Yeah,
but a lot are. Where there is a huge social life after canon, so to speak.
Oh yeah. I know Scarborough doesn't do camping, so I've always had to figure out how am I gonna get to Scarborough and get back again. It just ends up being a long day for me, and that's fine. But yeah, if they offer camping, you should camp. There's a lot going on, and also like almost all the fairs I've been to, there's more to see than can be done in a single day. So much to do. So yeah, take 2 days, take the whole weekend if you can. Do all of it.
Yeah, if it's more than like a 2 or 3 year fair, I think I totally agree with you.
Oh yeah. I think maybe like, the Kerrville Ren Fair, that's a little baby fair that's just gaining its legs. That one, you could go a morning and then go home. But But
generally speaking, yes.
hopefully it'll grow because I love Kerrville. It's old stomping ground of mine. So I'm like, yes, Kerrville, we're in Faire. Do it, guys. Do it.
And there are a few fairs where you can't even see everything in one weekend.
Oh, yeah.
A few that are just so big. I mean, if you wanted to see every shop, see every show, and and do all of that, no. I'm sorry. It's just, no.
Oh, no. I remember last year after Sherwood, I went all 17 days. I'm a friend of Faire, so I went all 17 days. And then I just remember there's always one more weekend. There's always one more weekend. And there was this list of things and shows I never got to see because I was so busy doing other stuff. So, yeah, there's always more than you could possibly see at the big fairs.
Very true. Very true. Well, awesome. You are definitely that type of patron who just loves Faire and embraces it wholeheartedly. So always a pleasure. Now you have a website for your artwork, Kristin Ashley Hogan. I was trying to read it and I put that A at the end there. KristinAshleyHogan.com.
Yes, KristinAshleyHogan.com. Because I used my full name, that will take you to the bulk of my work. So you're going to see my paintings, some of my fantasy work, my pet portrait commissions, nice. And there's a little bit of my comic book on there, but my comic book mostly lives at my Patreon page.
And there's a link on your website to the Patreon, but the Patreon is patreon.com/Kristin A. Hogan.
Yes. And had I been a smarter person, I would have made it match my other website, but I did not, so now we're stuck with it.
No, I think smaller is usually better if you can get away with it. So,
but yeah, Patreon, as any artist will tell you, we love our patrons who support us through a monthly pledge. I had enough patrons to publish my first issue of my comic book called Hammer Song, and I wanted it to be in print comic, so I actually, wanted a physical copy in everyone's hands. Nice. And patrons ended up helping me do that, and they're helping me publish the second issue, which it should be coming out fairly soon. So yeah, I love Patreon and I love patrons. They're awesome.
Awesome. That's great. Okay, I'm going to ask you one more Faire question.
Okay.
Your favorite Faire memory?
Oh, there's so many.
I know I put you on the spot, but
so many. But I'll definitely say the one that you were in because it always comes back to me.
Oh, really?
So I was in my Belle costume, and you had told me to come to the Maypole. And I was like, oh, the Maypole, that'd be so fun. And so on my way down the hill to the Maypole, I look over and there is this gaggle of Disney princesses. There was Ariel, Jasmine, Merida, and Snow White. And I didn't know, I didn't even know who these people were. And I was like, oh my God, hi! And so we were all, giggling like princesses because we were so happy to meet each other. And I told them, you have to come down to the Maypole because it's going to be fun. So I bring them all over there, and I remember you were like, what? Suddenly all these princesses. And then our kind of resident Tinkerbell shows up at that exact moment too. And so everyone's just screaming in happiness. And whoever was running the Maypole that day gave us all a different ribbon, and then all the little girls that were standing around were like, pick your princess, and you can go and do the Maypole with your princess. And then Andrew played us all of our songs. It was a huge, huge sing-along, and we had so much fun. So it just stood out as one of those moments of I finally get to be a Disney princess, even unofficially, and not in the Disney parks.
Well, that's what Faire is for. It's all about the fantasy and having a lot of fun. So.
Oh yeah. So yeah, that'll come up on my little Instagram occasionally. I'm like, oh, I remember that day. That was fun.
When you told me later that was all that you didn't know any of those people, I was flabbergasted. I was kind of I thought you all came in together. I really did.
Oh yeah, no, it was all completely organic. So that was why it was so cool. I definitely did not plan that in the slightest.
Well, that's how Faire is. You just kind of roll with it and have a good time.
Oh, yeah.
Well, excellent. It's been great talking with you. And, yeah, definitely keep loving the Faire. And we'll keep providing music and performances as much as we can.
Yes. Well, yeah, I hope so. And as soon as another fair is open and available, there I will be.
Awesome. Great to hear.
All right. Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you. Well, now we have the performer spotlight. And with this, we get to interview performers and find out a little bit more about them. Who they are, how they got into Ren fairs, and how they all started with whatever it is they do. So, yeah, it's usually a lot of fun and very interesting because, well, very interesting people. Well, I'm here with Paulo Garbanzo, one of, I, I think it's fair to say, one of the most famous jugglers in the world. Is that accurate?
Oh, really?
No pressure now.
Hi. Oh, hi. Yes. Sure. Let's say that. I'm gonna. I'll just say thumbs up on that one. Thank you. I'm very honored.
Well, certainly,
yeah,
certainly at Ren fairs, right?
I guess it's so hard for me to tell because I'm me. So I'm looking at all the other jugglers going, wow, that's a really cool trick or something like that, so I'm always like, yeah.
Well, is that true with juggling, where different jugglers have their own sort of specialty, the things that they're known for?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Once you get into the, I would say, upper echelons of like a particular style or trick,
mm-hmm.
and you spend so many hours trying to do that one thing, you're like, oh, well, that's the guy who does 5 torches on the ball, or that's the guy who actually juggles 5 knives, or whatever it is. Those are those things that people are like, oh my God, that took, other jugglers, I guess, are like, oh man, that took so many hours to do. I'm going to do this other thing and spend 1 million hours on that. And then I'll be that person who's known for, whatever, bounce juggling or some other thing, there's so many, it's for those role playing at home, it's a skill tree that, you end up going all the way down the rabbit hole, all the way down some line of skills that you've cobbled together into one trick, let's just say. So yeah, millions of hours are spent just trying to get to that one thing on the bottom of the skill tree. So
the truth about juggling is specialization. Got it.
General specialization, yes.
Okay, well, we started sort of with how you start out as a juggler, but how did you start out as a juggler?
Surprisingly, my older brother, he's 4 years older than I am, and I was 12 years old, and his friend could juggle. And being 12 years old, I said, I could do that. And they said, prove it. And then, of course, I couldn't. So then I ran away and spent 3 weeks learning to juggle by myself in my room, hiding from everyone. And then I appeared after 3 weeks and said, I can juggle. And they said, prove it. And I did. And so that's, so clearly I am determined.
That is great.
That's how I started to juggle. Now, the really great thing is that, as most jugglers are fairly amicable about sharing tricks, because everyone knows that it's a certain amount of time to do it. It's like the difference between like a magic trick is that, and they definitely take time to learn certain sleight of hand things. But you're like, oh, now that I see the secret, it's no longer a trick. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But with the juggling trick, you're like, oh, okay, well, all right, I see the trick. It's still going to take me 1,000 hours to do it. So you're like, here, you can see the trick all you want. And so, most jugglers are happy to kind of just show you, yeah, this is how you do it. You got to throw behind your back and do this thing and make this blind catch. That's how you do that trick. And you go, huh. And then you sit there for 1,000 hours and practice it until you can do it.
So did you spend a lot of time with other jugglers when you were young, learning from them?
Well, this other juggler, this friend of my brother's, and he would just, he'd hang out on the weekends with my brother. And so I would say, hey, I learned this trick. And he would go, great, now try this trick. and there's a progression, you can, you can learn one trick, and then they're kind of like from that trick you can go to this next trick. It's a little easier, you know. It's like if you're playing music, you know, the chord change and playing guitar from G to A as opposed to, you know, trying to play a B chord to a G chord, you know, trying to change your fingering. You know, some tricks are just easier to go from step to step.
Yes.
And so you go from there. And then you meet other jugglers eventually, and other jugglers, and they'll teach you something. You teach them something, and you know, once you have something to teach them, and we just, you know, you just go, oh man, that took a lot of time. Sure did.
I mean, was there a juggling camp or anything like? How do you meet other jugglers?
Not,
I mean,
not back in the 40s when I was growing up. You know, there weren't that many jugglers around. Now, okay, hilariously, let me back up. When I was 10, my uncle, Christopher, or Christoph, was a boss clown of Bar and Bailey Circus.
Nice.
And hilariously, I didn't learn to juggle from him because he was already on the road, living in a train for Bar and Bailey Circus long before I was ever even a juggler. So, you know, they're like, oh, you must have learned everything. And I was like, actually,
no,
I didn't learn the physical skill, but I will say that what I did learn from him was that being a performer was a real job. And
credibility, and it is a possibility.
Yeah. And, you know, he went to Japan, you know, he was the boss clown. He was actually like, when he got to Barnum and Bailey and then he got into it and they were like, oh my gosh, you're really fantastic. Okay, now you're the boss clown of this. There used to be two troops, blue and the red. And so then he was the boss clown of the gold unit that went and traveled all over the world and went to Japan and all these other places. And I was like, you got to go to Japan as a clown? Like, holy smokes. Like, that's a real thing. So at a very young age, I knew that that's a possibility. Like, being a juggler is a possible thing. Being a clown is a real thing. You know, a lot of people that I meet are like, oh my gosh, this is a real job. And I'm like, yes, it's a real job. Yeah. And they don't, you know, from an early age, I had that impression that was real. And maybe that's what happened. I don't know. So I credit him for giving me the ability to think that this is a real possible thing to do for the future. But other people actually taught me how to juggle.
Okay. Okay. Well, a big part of your show is also comedy, not just juggling. So
absolutely.
I know you, so I assume that you've always been a funny guy. You just seem like that kind of guy that just had fun making people laugh all the time. But how did you get into comedy?
Yeah, well, I was the youngest of four, and so I needed to, you know, get some attention somehow. So I guess I just found that being... I tried to remember, like in about second grade, I think I was like, you know, of course I was using jokes that I'd heard. I don't think I had an original joke that that I could think of. Like, when I was in second grade, I think we were going over the script of the Muppet movie.
Oh, nice.
And just like, that was so hilarious, and I would recite lines from that movie, and everyone would crack up. So yeah, I think that's where that started. And
my personal favorite is Bear Right, Frog Left.
Absolutely. Oh, yep. I believe if frogs couldn't hop, I'd be gone with the Schwinn was something that I quoted all the time. Just, you know, you run something over with a steamroller. It's funny. I mean, it's just comedy.
Yes.
For those of you who are familiar with the movie, I guess. But but then, you know what? And then I would say that, honestly, so I started playing Dungeons and Dragons at a very early age. And I started running the games even at a very early age because at first, once again, my older brother, I will credit him again, John, my older brother, who was the dungeon master for a while of me and my cousins and everyone. And then when I was at school or whatever and I had my gang of friends, I was like, hey, I saw how, I kind of figured out how it was done and saw it, and I could like, yeah, all right. So I started dungeon mastering at, at the tender age of, I guess, 11, I guess, somewhere around there. And that kind of gives you like, sure, it's a small audience, 4 or 5 people, but learning how to read a crowd, learning how to read other people's reactions and have them have a good time, I honestly would say that is really where that started.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought that would have been an influence, but the way you explain it makes total sense to me.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Being a dungeon master, not easy.
Oh, yeah, I've done it. I understand. I never would have thought of that as affecting that, but I see your point.
Oh, sure. Yeah. You read a crowd, is everyone having a good time?
Well, yeah, there are those DMs who will script everything and just be rigid and follow the script. And those, in my experience, are not very fun games. You've got to adapt to what happens and
Absolutely.
feel the players. Yeah, I totally get that. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Huh. I love it when I learn new things from podcasts. Yeah.
Hey, there you go.
Okay.
So,
well,
yeah.
From all of that, when did you get into rent fairs and how did that happen?
Oh gosh, so I got into rent fairs, I feel like late, because I was already doing shows when I was 16, 17.
Oh,
I started very, I did a spring festival in the city I lived in, Richmond, Virginia, and and then I was, did some other shows and other things. It's not like full time or anything, and just, I'm a teenager. I'm working at Wendy's or Arby's or whatever it was, and but I'm like, oh my gosh, I can get paid $100 to work for an entire weekend and juggle my butt off and like, okay, so like that started there. Again, it took a long time. Eventually, I was in college, met some other jugglers, and we started the Garbanzo Brothers. And we were around, and again, because I was in Virginia, DC area. I mean, we had already done a show at the Kennedy Center, not inside the Kennedy Center, to be fair. That didn't happen until like 2012, I think. But way back, there was a big event at the Kennedy Center. We juggled outside of it, and because they were like, you can't put on your resume that you juggled in the Kennedy Center because you didn't. And I was like, okay. I didn't realize it was such a big deal, but at the time. But yeah, so then so we had a show. We did amusement parks. We performed at amusement parks, and I'm running D&D games this whole time, doing these street festivals, and my friend is like, why aren't you at the Renaissance Fair? And I was like, the what? I literally had no idea what it was. And so halfway through college, a friend of mine's like, I'm taking you to the Maryland Renaissance Fair. And I was like, okay, let's go. And so I did. And then I was like, oh, okay, well, yeah, this is where I'm supposed to be. Yeah, little did I know. Renaissance fairs are the last bastion of vaudeville.
Yeah.
And I am a vaudevillian. Comedy, juggling, interacting with the audience. I mean, that's what I do. I don't ignore the audience. I play off of them. I yell at them. For those of you who have seen my shows, it's a whole give and take with the audience, and that's what I do. And a couple of good tricks. And then and that was like, oh, this is where this is supposed to happen. This is, so I immediately sent in this is how old I am, a VHS tape to the entertainment director, and then me and I would say the last Garbanzo brother. We used to be a troupe of 4, and college attrition. It came down to 2 of us eventually, and we did a 2-man show at the Maryland Renaissance Fair. So, and I was like, oh, okay, let's do this. And from there, it was a thing.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how? So you pretty much you started playing Faire right after you were exposed to it. You didn't start out much as a patron or anything.
No, I mean, like literally for one season, I was a patron.
Wow.
Like, yeah, but I was already like, yeah.
Yeah, it was like
Like,
an oversight that you hadn't been going there for years before. I get it.
yeah, and I think I was trying to remember if I had been to SCA events. I'd been, of course, in college. Yeah, I must have started doing some SCA events. Maybe, gosh, I can't remember. Oh, yeah, I think SCA happened first. I was in college. My friends were like, "Oh, come to the SCA." So I had some like medieval-ish outfits, and then, but I had to step it up, of course, to actually go to the Ren Fair.
Sure.
But had to be fancy, and yeah.
Well, now I just have to ask the question. I mean, to a new patron who's just started Ren Fair, what advice would you give them? Like if you could talk to the you back in the day, what would you say? Oh, I wish I'd known this when I first started going to fairs.
Oh man, as a patron,
I know. That's kind of tough because we're almost so far removed from being performers for so long. But
right? That you walk in that gate, man. There's.
Well, think of it like this: as a performer, you can direct. You can say, "Hey, all you patrons out there, this is what I want you. This is what I want you to think about as you enter." Because I mean, if you could give them advice, and because patrons never act the way you want.
It's funny though, because I almost would say like if it's your very first time, I would literally just walk around and just go to wherever the magic draws you, because
oh wow, not follow a schedule or anything, just kind of.
No, if it's your first time, I wouldn't even. I just would just go. I'd honestly just go.
Try a little bit of everything.
And you're eventually gonna hear the joust, the crowd, from the joust, and be drawn. Go, oh, all right, what's going on over there? Eventually, and talk to everyone. Like, just talk to everyone. And I can't tell you how many times that I have been, I've been walking around the festival. Someone will come in and they're like, "Hey, where's the blacksmith? Where's the thing?" And I go, "We'll just do it the old-fashioned way." I just turn around and start yelling, and I'm like, "Hey, where's the blacksmith?" and 4 or 5 people will just point, and you go, "See, there you go. Look, everyone's really helpful." This is before we had Google. You just shout.
Yes.
That's But feel the magic. I would say it's just such a great environment. It's a 3D environment that you can interact with. So go for it.
I like
now,
that.
if you're seriously interested in seeing a specific thing, okay, grab a program. If you are really interested in music, or if you're really interested in the joust and you don't want to miss it, interested in, I don't know, variety performer, then of course you should probably find one, pick a couple of shows that you are interested in. Otherwise, just get out there and just wander around, because it's the discovery, honestly, the first couple of times that you're going to a fair and you lost your map and you're kind of like, was this the turn? I don't even remember. I remember this building. This is a really cool thing. This little thing on the top. I remember that one. We do the other direction. And just wandering around getting lost is the best. And, if you get lost the entire time, eventually security will find you. So, you'll be fine. Don't worry.
You've got the cushion. I like it. Yes.
It's fairly safe environment to be completely lost in.
Well, okay. Then what advice would you give to beginning performers? Like if you could talk to yourself when you first started, what advice would you give?
Ooh, man.
I know, right? There's a lot you could give, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, and that's, of course there's always the like, what are you in for? What are you here for? Are you, you musically going for something? Are you variety performer? But,
but I mean more general tips, not.
Oh my gosh. Well, for a blanket statement, costuming, nail the costuming.
Okay.
Be original. And also I would say, use a nice bold color.
Yes.
That's gonna, oh yeah, because here's what's gonna end up happening. Whoever you are, no matter what, it's gonna be the guy with the guitar in the blank outfit.
Yes.
They may not remember your name. They may not even be a guitar, but if they go, oh yeah, oh the guy in the really awesome green and yellow, then that's me, right? Because I've got the green and yellow outfit or whatever,
Yeah,
stand out
as a patron, that's good advice for them too if they want to stand out.
Absolutely. Also, depending on what you're here for. So
that's true.
That's
well, okay. Well, you are touring and doing the juggling bit at fairs and other venues, but you have other projects too. I
do.
You have tours and groups that go overseas and all that. I mean, tell us a little bit about that.
We do. Well, so I run a company called Ren Adventures, and what we normally do is that we go to Europe and we do these tours. Now, most of the tours are in Italy. Of course, this is a weird time for Italy right now.
Granted.
But we do New Year's Eve in Sicily, which is where my family's from, so we actually get to meet some of my relatives, which is embarrassing for everyone. And then we go around Sicily. And a lot of people don't know a lot of the history of Sicily. I mean, they know it exists. It's part of Italy, but it has 3,000 years of history that of amazing history that we know about.
Yes.
The Greeks were there, the Romans were there, the Saracens were there, the Carthaginians were there, the Normans were there. And that's only up to the 12th century. From 800 BC, there's tons of things going on. There's Greek temples, there's all sorts of stuff that are all over Sicily. It's a great time. Now, the other thing that we started doing, now we've been doing these tours for 5 years now. And we started a Dungeons and Dragons tour through England and Scotland.
Wow.
Yes, and this has been really exciting. Of course, obviously, Dungeons and Dragons, major passion of mine. And it's been making a huge comeback in this world. And so I was like, why not both? So we're going to the castle that in England that I'm a jester of, which actually we didn't really mention that earlier. I competed in the jester competition a long time ago now, and won. It's Muncaster Castle, which is where Tom Fool is from. That's that guy. Tomfoolery. That's that guy. So they have a jester competition every year in honor of his foolishness, and so I won it a long time ago. It's like Miss America for jesters.
Okay.
You win one time and then you pass it on to the next person. You don't really win again. You don't once you're a fool, you're always a fool. So that's so we're going there. We're going to so we stay in castles, and we're going to stay in 3 different castles, and then we play Dungeons and Dragons every night. We go out on an expedition during the day. We'll see some other castles. We'll see some other places and stone circles and all sorts of other stuff. Visit Edinburgh, and then we come back to where we're staying, and we play Dungeons and Dragons in a castle. And
that's got to be a great experience.
Oh my gosh, it's going to be great. I'm planning on expanding that. We're looking at maybe doing a Greek heroes quest where we go someplace that has Greek ruins, and I don't know. We're looking at. There's so many really great opportunities for like Greek classic heroes and heroines, and so we're looking at expanding that for the future years when we can travel again. So
yes.
So yeah, and we were working with other performers as well. Roxy Damaris, they're doing a Germany tour, and so we're they're working under the company, and so we're expanding it to other performers as well. And people want to hang out with performers from the Renaissance Fair and visit places that actually had the Renaissance.
And what's the URL for that? The domain?
It is renadventures.com.
REN Adventures?
Adventures.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yup. So we've been doing it for several years now, and we're starting to expand and get into different tours as well. We have a person who is doing like a goddesses tour. We're going to go through Sicily and visit all these Greek temples that were for Hera and Aphrodite and all these ancient Concordia and it's going to be great. So
nice. Oh, well, where else can you be found online?
Oh, golly. Well, I am on the Facebooks, Paulo Garbanzo, and that's Paolo Garbanzo, like the bean.
Mm-hmm.
And that's on Facebook. And then I have my own website. It's garbanzojuggling.com. And that is, once again, like the bean. That's Garbanzo. And the bean, not the clown. Bonzo. Like, it's not garbanzo. So, yeah. But,
Excellent.
So yeah.
Well, what does the future hold for Paulo Garbanzo?
Goodness gracious. What does the future hold? Well, currently I'm working on some new tricks, and then we're working on some new tours. I'm also producing some adventures for Dungeons and Dragons, so I'm creating all of this content for our tours, which is unique. And then once it's up and ready to go, and once we've played it, then it will be ready for you can buy the module, buy the dungeon, and working on some cool stuff with some 3D printing stuff and
nice.
Some other stuff that's currently in development. So a lot of stuff going on. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, well, thanks for talking with us, and
absolutely
look forward to the show, and good luck in the future.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, and we'll see you soon.
Well, this is the end of the first show, so thanks for listening. You can find us at facebook.com/Life's a Faire, at our website, lifesaffair.com, our YouTube channel, and I think most importantly, our Patreon page at patreon.com/Life's a Faire. Why do we have a Patreon? Because we don't want to have to charge for advertising. No performer or merchant will ever be charged for participating in our events, and we will never take part of their tips. I'm a performer, and I would never do that. Also, I don't like ads. I'll just say it. I really don't like them. Long gone are the days ads were informational, and now they are primarily predatory. I'll avoid them whenever possible. Also, the Patreon will include cool stuff like extra footage from shows, special features, and seeing things earlier than everybody else. So, as a listener-supported endeavor, please help us out by joining our Patreon page at patreon.com/Life's a Faire. I'd like to wholeheartedly thank Kat, Kristin, and Paulo for joining me and sharing with us what their life is like at Faire. And remember, life isn't always fair, but it should be.